I'd like to welcome everyone for our special council meeting on Tuesday, March 24th at 6:30. Welcome. So at first, we'd like the acknowledgement of treaties and peace and friendship. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. The territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you. Next is our oath of office, the reformation. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? No? Okay. I'll get a mover, please.
Sorry. M 2026-03-24-33 that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I get a seconder
Second.
on the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Statements of conflict of interest. I don't believe there's any, but if there is, you can see Landon. And now we have business, and I believe we have a presentation. Okay, thank you.
Do you want to just press that button? Yeah.
All right. Just to present myself, my name is Guillaume Arsenault. I work with War Consultants. I'm with Jean-Pierre Fournier, our municipal manager. We're going to present you the 3 different projects we're going to propose for this year. I have a map from Beldoon. We can see 3 different arrows in yellow. That's going to be the location of the 3 different projects. The first one I'm going to present is the Main Street Upgrade Phase 4, project number 216-3. I have a small description of the project and the concept, and also construction costs and the proposed timeline. The second project will be the Curry Drive Storm Upgrade. Same thing, a description of the project and the concept, construction costs, proposed timeline. And the last one will be the Main Street Upgrade South Curb Phase 2. Same thing, a description of the concept and cost. If you have any question, you can stop me during the presentation. So the first one, the Main Street Upgrade Phase 4. The scope of the work is to continue the project we did last year, the Phase 3, just close to the Quinn Road. The project, it's a full street upgrade with excavation to subgrade, installation of a geocomposite membrane, the subbase material, the base material, 2 different type of asphalt. The approximate length for this year, it's 415 meters of street upgrade. That does include a small section of storm piping for 50 millimeter diameter pipe with 1 manhole just in front of a Civic number 3091 to fill the ditch in front of that Civic. There is also proposed construction of small driveways in front of hydropole from MB Power, mainly to avoid relocation and easement on private properties. I can show you the concept for that on the other pages. During the construction, we do propose 1 lane closure during construction, so to accommodate the contractors, but also to keep the traffic going. This is a picture that does show what we did in 2025 in blue on the right side. On the left side is what we propose for the area of the construction for 2026. So just east from Quinn Road. And we can see also at the bottom left the Civic number 3091. That's where it's going to be the small section of storm piping. This is some screenshot from the tender drawings that we prepared. The section in red is where the proposed storm will be. and we can see at the bottom a small cross section. So if we do take the road and we take a section of that, we can see the different layers. So we have, if you can see my mouse, so at the bottom we have the first layer of sub-base. Underneath we have the geocomposite membrane. On top of it we have the base aggregate and the asphalt underneath the driving lane. And we have on both sides a biking lane and a walking lane. And we do have ditches and swale on every side. This year we do have something that we didn't have last year, and it's some conflict with the hydropoles. They're gonna fall near the bottom of the ditch. To try to mitigate any impact on that hydropoles, we're gonna create small driveways that we propose to NB Power with piping, so that way the hydropole will be stabilized and the water gonna flow through the pipe and continue in the ditches. We're gonna have 5 hydropoles that are gonna have that situation on this project. This is a picture from last year, so we can see the excavation to the subgrade. After that, the geocomposite membrane was put on top of it, and we have the sub-base material. After it, we did place the base material just before the asphalt. And we can see on the left side the first layer of base asphalt that was placed last year. And on the right side, this is the end product. So this year, the project, we're gonna aim for the same thing, the same concept, the same width for the lanes, and also the same thickness for all the material. The proposed timeline for the tender period, March 25th, so tomorrow, to April 9. The construction period from June 15 to July 31st, so 7 weeks of construction. The probable construction cost, it's around $874,000 for 125. That does exclude the HST and engineering fees, but it does include $40,000 for contingency. I'm gonna continue to the second project, the Curry Drive. The scope of the work is to replace the existing 1050 millimeter diameter culvert for a new proposed 1200 culvert with a different outfall location. Going to include the new 1200 millimeter culvert with riprap on both ends. The removal of a portion of the existing 1050 millimeter diameter culvert. We're going to construct a ditching with riprap for the outfall, and we're going to have the street repairs and site reinstatement. This is the location of the work. So the existing culvert goes from this location and goes straight between the house and the garage and goes at the back here. So we're going to remove a small portion of it just before the entrance. What's proposed, it's a new culvert, going to cross the road. I'm going to construct a ditch for the outfall here. This is some screenshot from the tender drawings. So we can see the existing culvert here, the alignment going between the two buildings. We are proposing riprap at the inlet to rechannel and direct the flow to the new culvert. This is the new 1200 millimeter culvert. And at the end, we do have the ditch that's going to be fully constructed of riprap to reduce the flow and to mitigate any erosion in the future. On the left side, we can see the cross-section of the culvert and the ditch. And we can see the two different slopes composed of riprap. The proposed timeline for this project for the tender period will be March 25th to April 8th. The construction period from August 10th to September 4th. And this is intended to have the minimal flow in the stream and the ditches to make it easier for the contractor to construct the culvert. Construction costs, so $201,000, 720. And the same thing, it does exclude the HST and engineering fees, but include $20,000 for contingency. item for discussion. Do you want to come back after the presentation to this, or? Okay. So there is two options I want to discuss with you. During the construction, the contractor will need to close the street to some extent. So we have two options. So either we are closing one lane to accommodate the traffic, but to see help the contractor to install the culvert, so we can do half of the work, or we can close the street all the way.
There is another entrance. It's a possibility of getting it closed because there's an entrance down here.
Yeah,
That'll go to the other one.
yeah. I think London, there's a bylaw that said that there's no truck traffic on Hodgins Street.
Yeah, that was the only concern that I had was on Hodgins, we do have a no truck traffic bylaw. So if there was truck traffic now, as you're aware, we've got Greenergy that's down at the end of Curry. Now Greenergy's contractors and their own internal, they go through the port. They don't use Curry Drive, which is fantastic. I just don't know about their potential customers, because they do have some customers going in there. So that was my only concern that I wanted to make sure that we were aware of, was that there is a truck bylaw on Hudgens.
If we do close the street completely, that's going to help a bit more for the cost and the duration of the work. If we are keeping one lane during the construction, we can maybe add 1 week or two to the construction period and a couple of bucks more.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know if there's some feedback from council on. I don't know if it's maybe something that we can communicate out to everyone on Hodgins and Curry and potentially Shallur Drive, just saying, look at because it wasn't a large 3 weeks,
4 weeks.
4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So it's not a huge time period. Do you have even a ballpark of what you think the cost impact might be? Tough to say.
Depends on who gets the job.
Yeah.
We can include in the specification to have one lane closure. We can discuss, I guess, after the award with the contractor chose, and if we can ask him if there's a credit if we do the full street closure, and go from there.
Okay, that might be a good approach. That might be a good approach to build it in, to say that it's going to be a partial closure. But if we do ultimately, council is okay with closing it
Okay, we can proceed with that for the tender documents. So we'll go with the one lane closure, and
Could we reach out to the residents and see what their preference would be for a short period?
I mean, we could. I don't know if that's a can of worms that you want to open. I don't imagine that you're going to get
We're not going to get
consensus back, right?
We may not
Yeah,
get
you might
the
be,
answer we want,
Yeah.
but just maybe advise them a month in advance or whenever before the work starts, and give them a period of how long it's going to take, and that, the work needs to be done.
So if there is trucking on that road, my understanding is that, and another thing too that we could do is I could reach out, because the only trucking that I'm aware of would be going to that petroleum plant. And what they do is they retail sell. To be honest with you, I don't even know if they're at that point right now. It's just something that was in their plans, right? So if there's trucks going there, it would be, something like Smears Fuel, right? Like a truck like that would go. But the only concern that I really have is that the bylaw is the bylaw, right? So if it's, we should really do our best to not deviate from that. Maybe there's some exceptions or something if I got a hold of commercial vehicle enforcement or something like that. But but that would be the type of truck I would expect to be there. I don't think it's going to be large ones. Yeah, that would.
If I may, if Curry Drive wasn't there, they would be forced to go through the port. So, with that said, we have work that needs to be done. The trucking for a 4-week period will have to go through the port. End of story.
That's a really good point, actually, is that in the grand scheme of things, that's ideally where we want trucks to go anyway. So maybe it is an opportunity for us to reach out to Greenergy and say, this is happening. Here's the 4-week thing. You're going to need to let your customers know they got to go the other way.
For the construction work, what we're going to include in the tender documents, it's that the contractor that's going to do the work will just use Curry Drive. It will not be allowed to use Ogins Street. So now for the third project, the South Curb Phase 2. The scope of the work is to construct new concrete curbs on the south side of Main Street. So 2 years ago, we did a project that we put curbs on the north side of Main Street near Jacket River. This is like a continuation of that project. Underneath the curb, we have a foot of sub-base, 6 inches of base, small milling keys in front of curbs to put asphalt. We also include some relocation of catch basin with some piping. And in front of the church, we do add some curb there also, so 60 meters of curbs, and the construction of a biking lane in front of church with the asphalt type D. The approximate length of the curbs is 495 meters. The timeline, we propose to start the work after the Main Street upgrade Phase 4 is completed, so the first project I present. This is mainly to not have the Main Street close at 2 different locations at the same time. So if we can do one project at first and after that go to the other project, that would be maybe better for the traffic and the resident. So we can see on that image in blue, it's the phase we did in 2024. Sorry for that. And in orange, at the south side is 2026. But also we can see at the top right corner where the church is. We also have a section of curb there also. So this is a screenshot of the drawings. We can see the shaded area here in gray, so that where the curb is going to be and the milling key of asphalt. And in front of the church also here on both sides. We have 2 cross sections, so the section on the south side where there's just curbs on one side, and the other one where in front of the church we have curbs on both sides. We do have 2 options we want to discuss. Option 1, it's to only do milling keys for the asphalt in front of the curbs where the church is. Option 2 will be to mill and pave the whole width of the street between those two curbs. And why we have those 2 options is just because 2 years ago we did the curbs and we did a mill and pave on the whole width of the street. If we do the curbs on both sides and we don't do the pave in between, it could look weird a bit. The 2 different options, there's a cost associated to that. Option 1, it's $293,000. And option 2, it's about $40,000 more to do it. Just wanted to have your feedback on which option would you prefer to proceed. Mm-hmm.
Just a question for you. So I know that all of council had met with Francis prior to him retiring. And you know, we are going to try to extend with future PMHP projects.
Yeah.
We're going to try to continue basically from here right down towards Brito Lane.
Yeah.
Do you know if the asphalt component of this is captured in, I would assume it's in one of the PMHP plans that we've recently submitted? And the only reason I'm kind of raising it is
I think so. Maybe we could do it next year.
Yeah, because the only reason I'm raising it is because we've got, and council's aware of this, but each one of these projects are actually all funded. We've got these into different funding sources. So there's not a whole lot. I wonder about option 2. We might have to, not that it's a huge deal, but we might have to pull out of capital reserve if what we have on the project doesn't cover. If council wants to do, I understand what you're saying. It could kind of look off, right, where the road is still in poor condition.
But if we do it next year, it's just going to be for 1 year.
So you're looking, this project is for the other side of the street, not the side the church is on, the other side.
Yeah. But
Is
we
that,
do.
is that gonna rectify the problem or the mess that's there right now?
It gonna help. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you mean the washout?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's gonna
So
fix that.
actually, I don't know if you want to maybe jump on that right now, because we recently had Roy Consultants go and visit the site. So there was a couple things, because that curb, that's now actually eating away some of the asphalt that they put in. So this curb that goes in on the south side definitely is going to help, but Guillaume did have some suggestions on other things that we can consider to make sure that, because a lot of that water that's running out is coming from the Divenvorden field, right? So it's not coming along, it's the roadway, it's coming from that. So there was a couple of things that he looked at.
Yeah. So what we could propose is to install more catch basin, just downstream of that field. So we could add a catch basin with the riprap around it to make sure we collect all the water coming from that street, to mitigate any future erosion and to prevent any washout like this year. The curb by itself is going to collect the water from the asphalt from the street. It's going to direct it to the manhole. But from that field, we could put a catch basin behind the curbs to collect that water.
Guillaume, what about we had a lot of issues with the church last year with the curbs and the spacing in between, and I noticed that in your one drawing, there's the parking lot on the other side. I've noticed that where one issue that I think that this is going to resolve is that people that are visiting the church are kind of entering the church on, I guess, the east side of where the curb ends right now, so they're going over the grass. So this will help in that it's going to extend that curb, but do you have any specifications around the opening around that other parking lot? Because I think there's a parking lot on the other side of the church as well.
Yeah, for this one, I'm not sure yet. I can check with JP tomorrow at the office. Don't know if you have something on that.
I mean, like the curb drops for the driveway entrances, it can be as wide as you want. I'm not sure if they'll do it as a bylaw for that.
No, we don't. Yeah, we didn't. And the last time we did it, we were kind of following sort of like a highway safety standard.
Bathurst has a bylaw that we could follow as well. It's like 10 meters wide or 15 meters wide, and you're only allowed to have so many driveways per property, and they're supposed to be a certain distance from one another.
Okay.
Things like that to make it as safe as possible and as least confusing too. We could look into that. That's something that's usually dealt with during construction.
Yeah.
There's no cost difference for a drop versus a high curb, so.
Okay. And that's kind of a good idea during the construction, like when we get to that point, recognizing that we're going to have a new council in place at that time, but it would be a visual thing where if we could just sort of give them an idea of where that entry is going to be so that they can see it and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense, right? Just the issue that we got into last time was just that it was a little bit narrow.
Yeah.
So is there plans to have like a sidewalk going down there? Is that the plan, or is there going to be a sidewalk going down that hill on that side?
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
A walking lane.
Well, for people to walk?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is this, is that, I was involved with the church when you put the curbing in front of the church,
Okay.
and people were not happy, so if you're gonna put a curb in front of, on the other side, in front of that building, right now, I would suggest that we have a meeting with maybe Father Keith, or have Fidel Legacy come down and talk with Landon to basically express their views, because it created a major issue for, you got to remember that the people going to church are older people, and they got very accustomed to how the parking lot was. It became, I was there when I seen half a dozen of them going right over the curb because they weren't accustomed to it being there. So my point is this. We have a sidewalk that comes from the other side almost to the rec center. So that there's a sidewalk there. So, but it stops right before it gets to the building. And people park there. There's no curb there all the way down. So maybe the answer might be to begin the curb like once you're past that parking area so that people can continue to park there, you know, other than say having an opening and have to go through there and zigzag around there. But at this stage, I'd prefer to have maybe Fidel come down. We can touch base with him. I can touch base with him and ask him to come in and see you. And he can take the message to Father Keith and we'll go from there.
We can participate in the discussion if the village need assistance, and we can receive the feedback and make sure we do have it in our design.
Because, I mean, you know, I don't have a problem approving the project, you know, that type of thing, and that, you know, but it's just the detail.
Yeah.
You know, it created a major problem with the curbing there. Now, maybe they're a little more used to it now, you know, because that was, say, a year ago. But I don't want to create another
the same.
issue, you know, and at the end of the day, maybe just a simple conversation with the church would fix the problem.
Yeah, and we could have also the same conversation with the owner of the other building on the other street also, just to make sure.
Do you prefer I contact Fidel, or would you want to contact?
Yeah, I've got, Fidel's got my contact info, but yeah, no, absolutely. If you're in close contact, just tell him to reach out to us, and then, yeah, we can set
I
that
know,
up.
we also got to think that there's two driveways that goes into the graveyard up there. So, you know, you were so used to just driving in and driving out, and then if there's a curve there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Guillaume
Yeah.
was saying, is that and I think that's
we need
all
to
owned
really-
with it's all owned by the diocese on the other side as well. So it'd probably be Father Keith that would have an.
Yeah, because
input on that.
we had to get some widened, and we don't want to go there again this time.
Just to finish the presentation, so do you have any direction for us for the two options?
A question about the second option you had
Yep.
there, that it's like almost $50,000 more.
Yeah.
And the reasoning is because of the layers? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not-
so the option one, we just do a small key of asphalt in front of the curbs on both sides, but we don't do the full width of the street. On the option number two, we can see the area in red. So that's the asphalt that we're gonna mill and pave. So we're gonna take out some asphalt, build the crown and asphalt back. But the street will be done from curb to curb. So that costs more to do.
But, I mean, in the long run, it's better.
Yeah, because we're gonna have new asphalt. We're gonna create more drainage because we're gonna redo the crown.
Well, I would think anytime you have an area where water can flow freely,
Yeah.
that's better than having it just flowing along the street.
Yeah, and sometimes the water can be stuck just in puddles in the pavement. So the reason why we do have it's because we did 2 years ago the mill and pave. So basically we did the full street of pave. So if you want to continue with the same concept, we could do the full width, or we can wait until next year or the year after to continue with it.
So is there any directive from council on that? Do you want for Guillaume to go with the option 2, where it's the full street?
I would recommend that.
Yes,
yeah.
I would recommend it. Yeah.
That's it for us. Thanks.
Is there any questions on any of the projects from council, or is there anything that, any feedback or?
The one on Curry Drive,
Yep.
like where the piping is gonna go, the water, it's not gonna go as far as the bay, right? It's going to seep somewheres before it gets to the,
Yeah, it's gonna stop before it can go back.
sorry for asking that
No,
question.
it's okay.
And just while Guillaume is pulling that up, just so council is aware, because that is on private property, we've already got an easement and a release signed by the property owner. Andre had drafted that last year when we were going through it. So there's already, the private component of it is already signed off on.
Thank you.
For the discharge location, we present like the ditch with riprap. The end of that ditch, it's almost at the same location at was the older outfall. We can see the pipe here on the screen. So we're basically just discharging the water at the same place it was before.
And this will solve the problem of the person that's getting all the water.
Yeah. Right now the culvert is located between the foundation of the house and the garage. So by abandoning that piping and removing the flow to the other one, it should resolve that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I need a mover for the business at hand.
M 2026-0324-34, that in accordance of the NB Procurement Act and Regulation, Beldoon Council accept Roy Consultants' proposal to commence a tender progress and publicly advertise a tender on NB Opportunity Network, NBON, for the Curry Drive project file number 049-23.
Can I get a seconder?
So move.
In question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. 4.2, please.
M 2026-0324-35, that in accordance with NB Procurement Act and Regulation, Beldoon Council accept Roy Consultants' proposal to commence the tender process, and publicly advertise the tender on NB Opportunity Network, NBON, for the South Curb Project, file number 283-25.
Can I get a seconder?
Should we include option 2?
I believe. Yes, option 2 is included in that. In the motion, option
So
2.
I will second that.
On the question? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. 4.3,
M 2026-0324-36, that in accordance with NB Procurement Act and Regulation, Beldoon Council accepts Roy Consultant proposal to commence the tender process and publicly advertise the tender on NB Opportunity Network, NBON, for the PMHP project, file number 200-16-3-C9.
could I get a seconder?
So move.
On the question? Those in favor? Aye. Motion passed. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
M 2026-0324-37, that the meeting is adjourned at 6:05. Or, I'm sorry, that's 7:05.
On the motion? Everyone in agreement?
So I'll second it.
Second it? Okay. On the motion? Those in favor, say aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.